benching for the administration to give it to us every semester. If this is something that has happened for 4 semesters now in a row and it has had no negative impact on the university, then why is it that they are not changing the policy? Because right now, even if I pay my 60%, I'm not sure that I'm going to sit for papers, or I'm not sure if the 60% tuition waiver will be granted this time around. Because of the current tuition policy that is rigid, it is not changing, and that is what we need, because the 60% tuition waiver that we've been getting is just a temporary thing for only 1 semester. But we need something permanent. When I leave Makerere, how sure am I that the next leaders that are coming in will actually request for this 60% tuition waiver, or they'll be able to, or it will be granted to them? So we need to change the policy. That is why we were saying that we are not going to kneel or bend for the administration just to get that 60% tuition waiver every semester, but rather we are going to fight until the tuition policy changes so that it can state that students can sit for papers after paying 60%. Why do we have to run around with the administration every semester so that students sit for papers after paying 60%? Yes.
All right. And what would be your position on that, on the issue of the policies that she has just highlighted? What would you like to see?
Well, speaking from the perspective of a student, I would not want to contradict to what she says, but rather say I think we can have a much more lasting solution, because at the end of the day, when this young man pays their 60%, they're only going to write 60% of the papers. So assuming that this young man, or maybe his father, or maybe his mommy, or whatever person takes care of them, does not happen to have touch of the rest of the 40%, what is going to happen? They're clearly going to get frustrated. They're clearly going to have, can I say, their debt growing every semester, because if they pay 60% this semester, they will have to pay, they want to pay 60% the following semester, and that's how the debt is going to be growing. And what happens when somebody pays 60%? They're not going to have their results reflect. So you realize that even when this is looked at as a solution, it is only a temporary solution. What I'm looking at as a permanent solution is what exactly I got to state earlier, that we can have the students' loan scheme being better, or I should say much more appreciated by Makerere University, much more appreciated by the public universities within Uganda, much more appreciated by the government of Uganda. You get to note that there is quite a number of students within Makerere that are benefiting from BRAC, and quite a number of NGOs. There are close to hundreds of students. I'm just imagining if BRAC probably was not in place, those people would be in the villages, not at university. I want to look at that as a much more lasting solution than simply getting to have all our eyes at the 60% tuition waiver. Well, sorry, 60% policy. Well, for the moment, it is looking like it is a solution. But get to think of 2, 3, 4 years later, because at the end of the day, when I pay my 60%, I'm going to write only 60% of the papers. I have 40% left. When am I going to cover up for the 40% of the papers? You get to notice that it is not well packaged a solution. For the moment, it is looking like a solution, but I want to think the solution I offer is much more lasting than just a 10% solution she is offering.
All right, Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90. Today, I'm hosting 2 contestants for the Guild Presidency of Makerere University. They are with me here in studio, and that includes Gracious Kadondi, who comes from the NUP party, and Mr. Kyaja Peter Clevari, who comes from the Democratic Party. We're trying to understand what is likely to decide the outcome of this election. Look at some of the issues that are coming up. In total, there's 13 candidates in this particular race. And despite that ban by the university for students not to, associate with political parties, they have decided, actually 4 of them, identifying with political parties that are well known in this country. Feel free to share with us your thoughts by the WhatsApp line 0703-090-090. We'll be sampling some of your comments as this discussion progresses. Well, you've been interfacing with the students in the course of your campaigns. There must be some issues that you've seen that have come to the fore, which are not probably in your manifesto, that you think the students really want to see action on them. What are some of the things that you've come across during this campaign? Things that are very urgent, that you think, even without you being guilty, need to be urgently addressed by the university?
The main complaint I'm putting is about the sanitation and the health of the students. When you look at our washrooms, because when you go to university hospital today, they'll tell you most of the girls coming in are complaining about UTIs. As a medical student, I know that it is basically because of the hygiene of our washrooms. And even in our male halls of residences, it is the same issue. So I think the university should look at that as a priority.
But there's been renovation going on. Are you saying these have not been addressed?
Yes, we've only had 2 halls being renovated out of the 8, I think, out of the 8 halls of residence. So it is an issue still, because just 2 out of 8 isn't a very good percentage. Yeah, but even outside the halls, when you look at the colleges, it's only a few colleges that are privileged to have very good washrooms. Very few colleges. It might not even be 30% of the colleges. So this is an issue that should be worked on, because if I'm not okay, then I'm not going to be able to attend class. So before we even look at the bigger things, let's just look at the small things that can lead to the bigger problems. Yeah.
All right. Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 9. We're going to go for a break. When we return, we'll continue with this discussion, unpacking more issues that are in the manifestos of these 2 candidates. Kyaja Peter Clevery, who is running for 8 presidents under the umbrella of the Democratic Party, and Kadondi Precious, who is running under the banner of the National Unity Platform Party. Please share with us your thoughts by the WhatsApp line 0703 090 090. We'll continue after this break.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Looking for the ultimate Easter plan? Look no further than the Sheraton Kampala Hotel. Treat your loved ones to a sumptuous Easter Sunday brunch featuring fun-filled activities for the kids, from meeting the Easter Bunny and exciting egg hunts to bouncing castles and more. Enjoy live entertainment by Amani Music Hub, all for just 220,000 shillings per person. Children aged 4 to 12 enjoy 50% off all weekend. Prefer something more relaxed in the evening? Then indulge in a luxurious Easter Sunday dinner at just 120,000 shillings per person. And that's not all. Wrap up your celebration with a lavish Easter Monday lunch buffet only at 120,000 shillings per person. For reservations, call 0312 322 499 or 0752 711 191 or email foodandbeverage@sheratonkampala.com.
In business, there's always a can of worms. You avoid it, but somehow it still pops open anytime it likes. When the client calls, it spills everywhere. When the team checks in, one more worm escapes and derails the plan. When opportunity knocks, it wriggles in the middle, tangles everything, and puts off the win. And that's where Airtel Business Postpaid comes in to seal the can, so you stay always on and always winning. Stay on always with Airtel Postpaid. Call 125 or email business.support@ug.airtel.com to sign up. Enjoy monthly payments, 0 interruptions, predictable billing, and best-in-class coverage without daily recharges. Airtel is regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Well, thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum, live on Radio 1 FM 90. Today we are looking at the rationale of student leadership in public universities. I'm speaking to 2 contestants for the Hill presidency of Makerere University, Ms. Precious Kadondi, which is the candidate running under the NUP ticket, and Mr. Peter Clevery Chaja, who is running under the banner of the Democratic Party. They've been traversing different halls of residency and the neighboring areas of Makerere University to look for the votes. In total, there are 13 candidates, and we'll try our best to bring as many as possible to this particular platform so that they can share their thoughts. This position of leadership at Makerere University is very important in some way. It has also given a rise to a number of political leaders that we have in this country. For example, Honorable Norbert Mao, the Honorable Asman Basalirwa, the Honorable Mukasa Mbide, the Honorable Maurice Kiria. We have Yusuf Chiranda, who is the current administrator at Makerere University, and so many other people. And therefore, it's looked at as a breeding ground for future leaders in our country. Now, let's look at the environment under which you're studying at Makerere. Growing up, and at the time I was starting my journalism work, we had vibrancy at Makerere University, intellectual discourse, debates, and things like that. But we are actually told right now the environment is a little bit restrictive. 1 or 2 things: a student is suspended, a student is kicked out. as somebody who is fighting to get into leadership, how do you balance the act? You know, to make sure that the students have their right to express themselves, to complain and do a number of things, but also at the same time that they are not in contravention of the rules and regulations that have been put up by the administration. I've had so many people complaining about Professor Nawangwe, even the lecturers themselves. Mr. Kaja.
Well, interesting. What is happening today has its genesis from about 2022 when we lost a student in your presidential campaigns. It so happens that, yes, during the processions, while they're advancing for support and all that, a student gets to die. And then the entire subject is about the death of the student, and everything gets to be blamed against physical campaigns. When we get to carve people that way, I'm very certain we are going to be breeding a nation or a generation of docile people. A generation of people that cannot question status quo. A generation of people that cannot speak out. A generation of people that are only going to sail with the right. A generation of people that cannot revolt to anything that is bad. So if that is the generation we are breeding, then I wonder what intention the professors at Makerere University have for the next generation of Uganda. What do they have in mind as what is going to be the Uganda tomorrow? If they really say we are the Uganda of tomorrow and we are being trained to be docile, we're being trained to cover ourselves under the blanket even when there is quite a number of things against us. What I would want to say or give as my opinion as an individual, I do understand when we have the physical campaigns and all that, there is usually chaos that is going to come up. But if the nation was in position to handle this at the national level where we have quite big numbers, then what do they have to explain to us that they cannot handle just 35 or 40,000 students within Makerere University?
What are the things you do around Chikoni and the other neighborhoods?
Well,
looting shops and things like that.
For the time,
using knives.
For the time I've been in Makerere University, I think I want to say we have the most disciplined generation of Makererians. We have not looted shops in Chikoni. We have not held people at gunpoint.
You have not had that semblance of a riot or something like that.
We have not had anything of the kind. And then why don't they appreciate the level of discipline that we are portraying to actually give us the rights back, rather than having us come off as chickens all the time? And then we are going to be the leaders of tomorrow, or maybe the members of parliament of tomorrow, that cannot actually question what the president gets to say, that cannot question what the right honorable speaker of parliament gets to say, for as long as are comfortable. We are breeding a nation of people that have taken the line of apathy. And should we have a generation appreciating apathy or choosing to take the line of apathy? I want to say our generation shall be driving to doom. But now, it is going to be driving to doom, not because the students have chosen that way, but because of the professors we are having at the university. My prayer is that they get to understand exactly what I'm talking about and get to appreciate the fact that Makerere students are as much disciplined as they cannot imagine and give us the rights back.
All right. What about the same question to you, Kadondi, on that particular issue, the environment at the university and the relationship between the students and the administration, but also the action that has been taken? A number of times we have seen students being suspended. As a leader, how do you tackle that particular issue?
Yes, so for so long, coming to 4 years now, 5 years actually, our voices have been suppressed because we can never speak about anything in the university. You say one word and you get a suspension letter, you get a warning letter. We do not even know the path or the means through which these people are supposed to write these letters according to the different policies, the students' welfare policy in the university. Before someone gets such a letter, they are supposed to first go to the disciplinary committee. Unfortunately, sometimes you do not get that. You just wake up one morning, you get a call, they're like, this is your letter, you've been suspended from Makerere University with no evidence, but because someone feels like you are a threat, then they are going to suspend you. So yes, we need to revive back the Makerere that we once knew. I agree with my comrade Chaja. The students in Makerere right now are very disciplined, and they actually want to hear from their leaders. They want to get to have that experience. They're just from national politics, and they've at least getting to have that feel of an election, but it's not what they are getting in the university that they pride in. When you look at, you've mentioned a few key people in our country now. When you look at the different revolutionaries that we've had, Julius Nyerere, Jomo Kenyatta, these are people that passed through Makerere University, and at least their voices were being heard. They were freely expressing themselves. That is why they turned out to be the kind of men that we all look at. But we are no longer having such people coming from Makerere University. So yes, this is a fight, it is a struggle that we are in, and we have to do whatever it takes to make sure that the glory of Makerere comes back.
So as a leader, how do you tackle that? What would be your approach? Do you think you can speak to the administration? Is it an issue? How do you solve that kind of problem? Because it is currently, in existence.
Yes, so it stems from the Guild Statute and the Guild Constitution, and this is something that you have to change. But then, if you just present this issue to the University Council, then it will not be worked on. Why? Because you're not coming from any form point of view. So we need to first of all present this issue when you're coming from any form point of view, after us making the research. If we are being restricted from having physical campaigns, why are they restricting us? What is the impact of having physical campaigns? What is the impact of having online elections? How many people amongst the 32,000 students that we have, how many people want the physical campaigns, and how many are comfortable with the online election? So first of all, we need to make that survey, make that research, so that by the time we are presenting such a thing on the floor of council, then it is well backed up. Right now, even if we present it, me as a guild president or a charger presents it, it will not hold enough water because he has nothing to back it up. I have nothing to back it up, and it will not look as urgent as it is. Because right now, yes, I speak for 32,000 students, but how does Professor Nawangwe take it? Professor Nawangwe sees me as Kadondi Gracious. Professor Nawangwe sees Peter Clever Charge as just him. So we need to first of all come from an informed point of view, and in case that fails, then we have all the rights, we have all the grounds to come up and raise our voices, not through violence, but through peaceful protest, because even the constitution of our very own country allows protests. So if we at least have the evidence of we asked for something, it was not worked on, even when we have 20,000 people backing it up, then we are right to protest. And we need our leaders at the front line, and I'm willing to take on that, because that is why I said we need that aggressiveness in the leaders of Makerere University so that they can lead.
Isn't that aggressiveness the problem? That's what the university actually says, that even practicing, politics, partisan politics of political parties at the university, it creates that, mood of aggressiveness and then breeds violence. And they have a basis. They have an example of a student who was stabbed by another political camp and so forth. So they insist that they are doing the right thing.
No, they are not doing the right thing, because how many people are complaining about the Makerere that we are having currently? Yes, it is not about violence. Aggressiveness doesn't mean violence. Aggressiveness means you are going to stand firm on what you are saying. You are going to say the same thing until it is worked on. You are going to demand for it. When you have medical interns right now moving to parliament and they are demanding that, okay, we cannot sit for a whole another year. It's not like they have guns, because you cannot fight with a state. You cannot fight with someone with a gun. But at least they want their voices to be heard. That is the aggressiveness that we are talking about. We may not have the weapons, but at least our voices can be a weapon. When we have a united voice, nothing can refuse to work out.
All right. I want to ask each one of you, if you are given an opportunity to be the Vice Chancellor of Makerere University, what would you change immediately? What are some of the key reforms you would undertake at the university to improve the welfare of the students, the ranking of the university academically? There have been issues around there. Generally, the environment under which the students and the staff are working. What would you do? Because in there could be the solution to some of the problems that you are highlighting today.
All right, interesting. Makerere University is a premier university in East Africa, and it is something Uganda is very proud of. It is something East Africa is very proud of. But it's very disappointing to note that where we say we primarily go for education at the moment, Makerere University is staffed at 39.6%. I'm wondering how much this is going to deliver for what they say is the primary role taking us to the university. So as Vice Chancellor, well, I'm assuming Professor Nawangwe's shoes, assuming I'm Vice Chancellor, primarily we say we are there for education. How about we chose at least having a modest percentage of staffing? Because looking at this percentage of staffing, 39.6, we are seeing quite a number of students having not as many classes as they're supposed to be having. You get to note the ratio of lecturer to student. Lecturer to student ratio is quite big, and there is not so much efficiency that is going to come from that. So how about we had a better level of staffing to see that the lecturer to student ratio is actually reduced, to see that we have much more efficiency, we have much more time given to the students, so that Makerere University gets to produce the good quality that is desired over the better our ranking is going to be. Makerere University is a premier university. I'm going to mention this because when you get to our main gate, you will see Premier University in East Africa, something like that. And when you get to walk into the Premier University in East Africa, you get to notice that furniture in the lecture rooms is actually not enough. Something very small, yet very ashamed. Students get to carry chairs from one lecture room to another. I'm wondering what the administration gets to look at that as. When you get into the lecture rooms, they're equally not at their best. I'm looking at something very simple, and does not require us to first call for a parliamentary sitting to have the lecture rooms put to quality. I do not see us having to first call for an entire council session to have the lecture rooms put to quality, but rather it is something quite small. It is something quite small, but yet very important when it comes to the welfare, particularly in line with the academic welfare. Still, when we talk about accommodation, many leaders get to ignore the people that are residing in hostels of residence. In hostels, not necessarily halls of residence, because the university cannot accommodate all its population in simply halls of residence. So we have private people providing accommodation, but rather licensed by the university. So when you get to Chikoni and Wandegeya, Chikumi, those places, you get to notice that the most average hostel is 700,000. They will charge someone 700,000 for accommodation per semester. Well, even when that looks very fair to you, it is paid by 2 students in that room, and it's a room of about 5 by 4 meters. It is that small. And when you get to have this added together, it's going to total up to 1.4 million. Let's do the mathematics together. 1.4 million divided by 4 to ascertain how much these people are going to pay per month. They're paying close to 350,000. And now I will challenge you to take a flashback to where you're coming from and ask yourself whether a room of 5 meters